Hello everybody, and welcome to another episode of Hyperdrive Inn Devlog. In this week's episode, I want to talk a little bit about the mental stuff that revolves around game development. What do I mean by this? Let's go and check it out. This week I wanted to talk a little bit about the mental side of game development. Many indie developers, me included, work by themselves. While I do like to be able to decide my own schedules and tasks, this stuff does get lonely quite often. In the past 2 weeks I was able to complete 2 very complex levels which focus on puzzles. One of them takes place in a library, another in a large prison. The footage you're seeing throughout this video is of these 2 levels. I'm very proud of both of these, but the project is starting to take its toll on me. Making games is mentally demanding, for me at least. This stuff comes in 2 different packages. One is directly linked to game development, other in all the other stuff that comes around when you're making commercial stuff. Let's start with the latter one. Indie developers are supposed to wear a lot of hats. Game development takes time and effort, and I wish I could just focus on that. Some time ago I told you that my publisher decided to bail on the project, and this has created a whole plethora of extra things that need to be taken care of. I had hoped that I could outsource all the marketing stuff to a publisher, but now I have to figure out everything by myself. And I really don't have extra time for that. We are 8 months from launching, and I can easily fill my schedule just with development. So yeah, I am feeling a bit stressed with this. And outsourcing isn't easy either. There are millions of indie game marketers out there, so trying to figure out a proper partner for this is laborsome. I'm on a budget, so I really don't have the luxury of spending a huge amount of money that ultimately leads to nothing. I need to get some exposure, but I'd love to do that with an indie-friendly shoestring budget. Another thing besides marketing is QA. While we are still miles away from finished product, quality assurance is a thing that already is looming around the corner. Polishing and debugging a game is hard work, and I have noticed in my previous projects that this part of development is something that really requires focus. There's a lot of testing to be done thanks to the randomization. Because Hyperdrive Inn is structured the way it is, all different combinations have to be tested, and quite frankly, I'm a bit horrified by this. Thankfully, we have reserved plenty of time, but I certainly could use some extra hands when we really start to test the game. Then to the more personal stuff, which in my opinion is even more important than the things I just mentioned. Many indie developers are the core of their business, so if you yourself get wrecked, that means your company too is screwed. I'm sure business owners in other fields can agree that running your own company is a balancing act. I work 5 days a week, 8 hours a day. And that's all I'm willing to spend on working. That being said, I constantly have a feeling that I'm just slacking away. But the most important thing that I've learned while making games is to ensure that you have a proper work-life balance. In my case, creative work will consume everything if I don't constrain myself. I've suffered through a burnout, and that's definitely something I don't want to experience ever again. I am an introvert, so I like to do stuff on my own, but human contacts have been a rarity during the last 6 months. Luckily, there are a few other game developers in the region and we meet on a monthly basis. Peer support is a blessing because I don't want to dump everything on my family. The last few weeks have been rather difficult because all of the stuff I mentioned above. For me, game development has always been a thing where my mental state constantly fluctuates between awesome and total crap. It would be cool if there was a middle ground of sorts, but I've kind of grown accustomed to this. I just hope that this crapshoot I'm currently experiencing would pass. I know that I'm making good progress, we are creating something awesome, and things will eventually sort themselves out one way or another, but currently it just doesn't feel like that. I cope with this stuff by keeping things in balance. Like I mentioned, workdays are 8 hours and 8 hours only, and there are just 5 of those in a week. Another important thing is exercise. When you spend your days in front of a keyboard, the mind and body require some physical activities in order to stay fit. Getting through the darker thoughts requires elbow grease. I have a schedule to keep, so there's really no other way than just to push through them. And usually this also works. Meditation works extremely well for me in these situations. Luckily, I have plenty of other things in my life besides game development. Making these weird little games is an important part of my identity, but family and well-being will always be more important. If there are any aspiring young indie game developers watching this, listen to Grandpa. This stuff will ruin your life if you give it too much attention. I've been there and done that. And thanks again for watching. If you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing for this channel, it would mean a lot. And besides these devlogs, I also review indie games in this channel in my new series Indie Game Sauna. If you have a cool indie game in the works, do let me know, I'd love to check it out. And Hyperdrive Inn is already on Steam, so you can go ahead and wishlist the game right now. The launch is set on October, but we already have a playable demo of the game, so you can visit the Infinite Hotel well beforehand. But that's all for today. I'll see you guys again next week, but until then, bye bye.